J.P. Morgan Chase and Company.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Bachelor Happy Hour. I'm Joe.
And I'm Serena.
And we are here today with Zoe. Zoe, welcome to Bachelor Happy Hour.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course. And before we get into the episode, we are going to get a little breakdown of what you were doing before the show, how you got on the show, a little bit of a history, and then we'll get into episode 2.
Yeah, there's lots to talk about, so we're excited to have you on today.
Thank you.
Okay, so Zoe, where do you live?
So right now I live in New York City, but I'm actually from Southern Virginia. Went to school in North Carolina and lived in Philly. So,
Oh, nice.
but I
We're
love
in New York, too.
Oh,
We're here,
awesome.
too. What area are you in?
West Village.
Oh, nice. We're in Chelsea, so not too far.
Close, yeah.
How long have you been here?
Oh, I think like 3 years, 3.5 now. I'm like losing track of time.
Yeah.
I know, it all blurs together.
Yeah.
We feel the
We're
same
going
way.
through it. And what do you do for a living?
So when I graduated, I've been working in finance tech for like 6 years. And my latest job was with the London Stock Exchange as a product manager. We did interest rate things with large investment banks. But I was actually laid off this summer. And I had started modeling a couple years ago once I moved to New York. So luckily I was able to kind of just pivot into that realm. But I do always want to get back into like tech or like startups. So TBD.
Nice. And what was dating life like before you went on the show?
It was very weird for me. Like I grew up in Southern Virginia as like one of the few people of color in my like small town. And did not have a boyfriend until my senior year of college, I think because of that. Like a lot of the guys would say like they couldn't date black women and like whatnot. And I didn't have many options. And then at college, it's like at Duke, everyone was like so nerdy. And I think that we like were all so focused on studies. Like once the guys got there, they just wanted to have fun and party. And no one wanted to settle down. And when I graduated, I moved to Philly. I met a guy and, I thought like, this is the one for me. And I think at the time I had like really low self-esteem. So I basically wasted like 2 years of my life, like chasing him and like pick me, like love me. And when we finally did start dating, I was able to see a lot of like the red flags and like how I was not being treated well. And I think that coincided with me moving to New York and like getting real girlfriends and like people who were like hyping me up and like, Zoe, like you're like amazing, like you don't need this. And so like the last 2 years dating in New York has been interesting. Like I think the quality of men is so amazing. Like I've met so many genuine, nice, great people. But now I'm back with the people who don't want to commit. And even worse than not wanting to commit, they don't tell you that until you've invested like months to like a year, that they're not actually looking for a relationship. So that's where I was at. And so last year on my vision board, I was like, I want a husband. That's what I was looking for. I think it's something I really, really do want is just a life partner and like love and like a family. And when the opportunity arose, like it was the strangest set of coincidences. Like I said, I got laid off and then I was going in to compete for Miss New York USA for my third time. I was the returning fresh runner up. So I was like, should have won. And that week between like getting laid off and not winning the pageant was like when someone had reached out to me of like, do you want to apply to be on The Bachelor? And I was like, I guess like I'll hedge my bets. Like I'll start the process. And once I lost the pageant and I, no longer had a job, I was like, I guess this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
What at the time was Grant announced as being the next Bachelor?
No. So by that point, all we had seen was part of Jen's season. And
Okay.
I was like looking at that, like similar to what Jen said, I was like, no one's like really sticking out to me. Like obviously there were some cute guys. Grant was one of them, but like we didn't really get to see a ton of personalities. So I wasn't like, I want this man to be my husband, but I was open to it. And I think we found out when the world found out via Instagram. And yeah, I was like, he seemed really sweet. He seemed like he actually wants to be a husband and like wants to be a protector and provider. and he's a little bit mysterious online. So it's like you didn't know too much about him, but honestly, in this day and age, that's preferred when it comes to men. Like, I want my man on private with like 200 followers. So I was excited to meet him.
Did it feel like, what were your hopes and expectations going into it? Because it almost feels like if I was in your shoes, I'd be like, this is crazy. Like, it almost feels kind of like fate, like everything's aligning. Like, someone reached out to me at this perfect time in my life to do something like this, and I'm manifesting a husband, and this guy's looking for a wife, and like, this could really all work out.
That's exactly it. And everything in my life that's been life changing, wrestling, getting into Duke, like everything was that way. Like, it's not like I had these, like, I'm going to go do these things and they completely altered my life. So I was like, oh, this just makes sense in the life of Zoe. Like, of course I'd be on The Bachelor the year I get laid off from my job. And yeah, so that was my thing. I'm like, very much like, trust the process. Like, it's here. It made sense. And it definitely, like, no one was surprised.
Really?
One more fact about you. You were on the boys wrestling team. How does that work for boys in high school wrestling with a girl?
You know what? Like, being in like a small, like, conservative town, I really thought they weren't going to let me join because there was no women's team. It was back in, like, I don't even know, 2012. But as I said, I'm very much like the type of person, like, if I'm not supposed to do something, if, like, I'm going to go do it. Like, I'm going to prove you all wrong. So when I heard that they had openings, I went. I was horrible. I got pinned in 20 seconds every single match for my first year. And typical, they all were like, she's not taking this seriously, like, don't come back type thing. But I didn't want to let that happen. And I came back and I really pushed myself. And by my second year, I don't think I got pinned. By my fourth year, I was winning half my matches. But the guys were actually so supportive. Funny enough, a guy that I wrestled, like, still follows me, and he's like, I wrestled you, and he's like, saw that I was on The Bachelor, so he's like so hyped. So, like, the guys were so impressed because you would think that I would come in and I would just be like an easy win, and I love to surprise people, and I never let them win easily.
What called you to do that? Like, how are you like, I feel called to be a wrestler now and I'm going to do it on the boys team?
You know, I was such a black sheep growing up. I was adopted into like a Caucasian family, as I said, like in a very like white town. I was a complete nerd. I like dressed up as Albert Einstein for every Halloween. So I was
That's funny.
No,
so cute.
No.
That should have been in your fun facts in your bio.
You should have came out the limo dressed up like Albert Einstein.
I was like, let me try to get a husband, but maybe one day I'll show him those photos. But yeah, so I was like always just like so didn't fit in. And at the time I was like really tall too. I'm 5'9". Everyone in my hometown was like, I was always the tallest girl. I was taller than most of the boys. And I had been playing basketball at that time. And I heard the announcement. I was like, okay, well, what's going to look better in college? Like, tall girl plays basketball or girl plays wrestling? And like, neither one I'm going to the Olympics for. So I chose to do it. And it really was life-changing. I learned so many like skills that you don't get in any other sport or like really much anything else in life for like self-discipline. If you've never wrestled, like it's both an individual sport and a team sport. Like you are reliable for maintaining your weight, going to the gym, working out, but also like learning the moves and then getting in the right headspace. And also like I didn't have a great home life, so it was a great escape for those like many hours after school that I had a place to go. And I think it's also what helped me when I got to engineering, because I'm used to being one of the boys and like all of that. So definitely amazing. And now I get to like mentor with some wrestlers here, which is amazing.
Nice.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
That is, yeah. Wow. I love that story. Okay, let's get into the show. So night one rolls around. You could have dressed as Albert Einstein. You could have wrestled him to the ground. You went with the t-shirt gun. How did we land on this?
Yes, because I really was like, do I want to do something like funny, whatever, or do I want to look hot and like do something memorable? And I was like, let's do the hot. We can do the fun stuff later. So I had that gown from my pageant. I was like, I got to rewear it. I got to get my money's worth. And I was thinking something along the lines of basketball, but I figured some of the girls would probably show up with basketballs, play basketball, whatever. And I was like, fan merch. Like, I genuinely want to be a power couple with whoever I am, whether that's just we look hot or we're super successful. And so I was like, that's perfect. Like, we'll have some merch. I think my idea was just to throw it over the house to some of the girls or like lay them around. But someone had the idea for this super dangerous, scary t-shirt cannon. And I was like, I have terrible aim, so I genuinely don't know why they thought that was a good idea.
I would be like, someone needs to get like a waiver, like should have me sign a waiver before I use this.
No,
like I shouldn't be allowed
shocked.
to use this.
Also, I didn't know there were girls outside. Like, I was like, felt so bad and scared. I was like, is someone gonna get hit? So I'm glad it all worked out. No one was injured. No mansion was injured in the making of my night one entrance. And I think it made an impression.
Yeah, I would say, I think from a viewer standpoint in ours, you're one of the front runners after episode 1. It seems like you and Grant have a really good connection. Is that how it felt? Did you feel confident after night 1?
It was this weird mix. And I think it comes down, like, yes, I come off confident, and yes, I like, and then I sparkly gown, but I genuinely am like always like, I don't know if people like me. I don't know if men like me. And so, and I don't know what his type was. Like, we didn't know much about Grant. Like, does he want like powerhouse woman, or does he want someone who's like more like loving and caring, or like and so we had such a mix of women. I was like, oh yeah, we had a great intro and we had like actually a good little conversation then. But I was the second to last girl to speak to him that night. So obviously,
oh yeah, I do remember you saying something like, I've been waiting a long time, or you said something hinting that you were like one of the later girls.
Literally second to last. And by that point, maybe had a few too many drinks, and like and then our conversation that night actually got really deep really quickly because of the questions he asked me. And I was like, I want to make every moment I have here as impactful as possible. Like, I didn't want to just touch the surface. So I was like, I don't know if that's going to be too much. And I also was like, okay, like, yes, we kissed, but then he was kissing everyone. So I was the kisses meant nothing.
Yeah.
But I guess on the hindsight, like on the flip side, at least I got a kiss, which then at least showed me that he was attracted to me. And I do think that we had that initial chemistry, which is something that's really, really important to me with the men that I date. And yeah, so it was definitely a whirlwind of emotions. I did not feel safe at any point, and I was so grateful my name was called like third, because like otherwise I probably would have had a heart attack.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It definitely feels good to be called early. What were the vibes like in the house? Because you definitely made a bold entrance. At David's Bridal, love is in every stitch, from the initial sketch to the final detail. Ideas and inspiration.
All the destinations for all
Find your soulmate.
free entree this
Valentine's Day, celebrate every gift. Choose from styles.
Unshakables podcast is back for season the moments that he overcame
Pool. We see
may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank NA. Member FDIC. Copyright 2025. JP Morgan Chase and Company.
you're shooting t-shirts out into the pool. We see Chloe, she like puts on the t-shirt, she's modeling it. She seemed to have kind of a playful attitude towards your entrance, like she was almost like bantering about it with you. Did any of the girls have a negative reaction towards your entrance?
I think someone said something about like it almost hit them. Like, I was grateful Chloe like definitely broke the ice, because it was one of those things where they could have been like, what are you doing, and like ignored it. But yeah, I think my way of operating is like, you never know the opportunities that you're going to have, and like I try to take them full force. So like, I'm going to try to make an impression, I'm going to try to mark my territory. And so I think when I came in, the vibes were like maybe a little bit weird, of like a little bit standoffish, like who is this girl and who does she think she is, which I'm fine with. I think that's how we should all act. Like, we don't know each other and we're all about to fight for the same man. Like but yeah, I think it was an interesting dynamic. And plus, since we were the last limo, all the other girls were already talking and like spent quite some time together. before we got there. So I think that was also like a bit like late to the party, like,
Yeah.
and here I am making a huge entrance. So it was
What
interesting.
what was your knowledge of the Bachelor franchise before coming on the show?
Very, very little. And in hindsight, I'm like, I wish, dang, I had watched a little bit more episodes. Like, I think everyone watches, we've all seen it, we know the premise, but I think maybe I had watched 1 or 2 seasons in the last like 10 years in its entirety. So I really did not know what I was getting myself into too much. I tried to watch a little bit before I left just to like have an idea of like even what to wear, like what are we doing, like what is the vibe? But yeah, I didn't know too much. But once I got actually in the casting process, I did look a little bit more, and I was happy like to see that there's stuff like this where there's like a whole almost alumni network where it's like even if you don't find your love story on the show, like there's so many opportunities to find love and friendship within the franchise, and I really liked that part. So I was like, I'll win one way or another.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it, and a great
I agree.
mentality to have going into it for sure. Okay, let's get into episode 2 because that's where all the juice is.
Juice.
It's something.
Juice. Okay.
Yeah, it was a poor choice of words. But anyway, you are on the first group date of the season. You're on the basketball date. You play basketball. How do you feel going into the date?
So I was excited because I did play basketball. I was a little bit upset because I wanted a smaller group. Like that was a large group. That was 10 women on one group date. And it was the day right after the rose ceremony. So it's like we hit the ground running. Like there was no time to get to know each other. There was no time to like sit there and reflect. So it was just a bit nerve-wracking.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Something we see it every season. We see someone pretty early on a group date will pull the the lead aside, and take them away from the group, and it usually rubs the group the wrong way, which is kind of what happened. Which is
Exactly what happened.
Which is what happened. So yeah, I just want to hear how that went. What was your thought process doing it, and yeah, the whole thing.
Well, exactly as you just said, it happens every season. So in my brain and like the way I think, it's like there's no rules there, like if you know what I mean. And so
Yeah.
I knew it would rub people the wrong way, but I didn't think it would anger them. I thought it would be something like, oh dang, like she did what I wanted to do, and like I'm gonna take notes for next time. Not like, oh my God, she's this evil, mean woman trying to steal Grant from all of us. Because the thing is too, like there are ways to be rude in this environment. Like if I had a rose and I knew I was safe, if I had a one-on-one that week, or there was something that we had already established a really strong connection, and then I was just stealing him to steal him, like, yes, I could get you being upset. But it was like it was day one, like we had been playing basketball for hours, and I had the opportunity to like have some extra time. Like I need to see also if I like this guy. And the thing is, if any other girl had done that, I would not have been angry at them. So I would have just been like, cool, next group date, I'm allowed to take him away. Like that's what I think. And that's the way that my brain works. So it was a bit interesting. And then the other problem was I didn't know how angry the girls were until we got to the cocktail party. So they were like sitting there, one talking behind my back, but like really hyping each other up to like be angry at me instead of like trying to talk to me and just be like, hey, like you did that thing, kind of sucks. Like maybe we had wanted more time with him. Like maybe tonight, like just don't do anything crazy. Like I would have been like, cool, no problem. But they came in an attack and they came as a group, and I was like, I'm not about to be bulldozed into trying to lessen myself. Like I didn't do anything wrong. So I can accept that going forward, but like I'm not going to apologize for doing what you would have done.
Who out of the women would you say was like the ringleader in that? Because we do see, and I want your thoughts on this, we do see Allie Joe push you pretty hard during the basketball game.
Which was after you had stolen him, right?
Yes, I guess that was my first inkling that something was up because like we had come back. I guess I don't know. I didn't say anything. Like obviously it's awkward, but like we're about to play basketball. That's more opportunities. Like if y'all want to go do something, leave the basketball game still. Like you know what I mean? Like there's other ways to make your mark. And so for me too, I'm a competitive person, but I'm also like a rule follower. Like I don't know if who wins the basketball game is the only people who gets the cocktail party. So I'm gonna give it my all. We played basketball. My team was really good. And the other team, we like all of a sudden there was like a shift where they just all got so angry. And as you saw, I was literally pushed on the ground. And to me, I was like, that's not basketball. And like, as I'm a wrestler, like I'm not going to sit here and fight back, but are we being for real right now?
You're like, I could take you. I won't, but I could.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So to me at that point, I was like, oh, wait, you guys are like being way too like aggressive about this. And then there was like inklings that like, they were saying like whispering our team was being aggressive. And then it was like, oh, Zoe was being aggressive. And it's like during the basketball game, once we were up by so much, I started telling my team, I was like, stop going full court. Like we need to pull back. I was the one trying to be like, guys, we need to do less because these girls are getting pissed. So I was the one like trying to de-escalate the situation and I got no credit for that. And so it was just a really weird thing. And then, yes, I got pushed on the ground. I didn't retaliate. Like I was just like, this is a very weird vibe at that point. And then once we got to the cocktail party, I mean, I think there was the two that were the loudest. And specifically, we know the girl who pushed me, Allie Joe, not only is she screaming at me for stealing time with him, which it's not stealing, we're all entitled, and you can come steal him at any point.
At David's Bridal, love is in every your go-to for
The perfect beach finder quiz. You can serve
everybody. I mean, it's hard.
here. You can get a free entree this Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day, celebrate every love story. Choose from styles full of sparkle.
Podcast is back for season moments that he overcame to forge it.
And at that point, that flipped the switch in me.
Morgan Chase Bank N.A. Member FDIC. Copyright 2025. JP Morgan Chase and Company.
And at that point, that flipped the switch in me, like, because no one stood up for me.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you, was there any women that were on that date that were like on your side at all?
Or even like afterwards came up to you and was like, hey, things have gone too far. Like,
or are
you
you on
okay?
you're on your own island at this point with like no friends yet?
So I think, like, as I said, because it was such a quick turnaround, obviously I'm very confident and like bold. And yeah, so at that point, I hadn't formed any friendships. I was like the last limo out and we're playing. I would have thought my team would have protected me. But then suddenly they're trying to switch sides because I think, and again, this is the thing with women that I've had throughout over the years is just that mentality of like group think of like, we all have to be on the same page. Otherwise, we're going to ostracize and attack you. And I don't play that. Like me and my friends, we're all successful. We're all driven, like, but in different areas. Do whatever you want to do. Date who you want to date. Dress how you want to dress. Like I'm not threatened by them. I'm inspired by them. And I feel like a lot of times there's groups of women who need they have their leader and they just like go along with whatever they're saying. And at that point, the group of 9 other women had their leaders telling them that I deserve to be attacked. And so during the evening, not a single person stood up for me. And by that point, like I'm in tears because what is literally going on right now? And that was like kind of just a really crazy experience to be in because I have not been in anything like that before. And I definitely have not been like now. As I said, my group and the people, whether it be pageants, modeling, tech, all of them are just so supportive and just like, so it's just so strange.
And it's tough because you're like being filmed for the first time, and you're
and I'm being filmed this entire time. So you're like, you're also so hyper aware because if I go off and I say one thing to them, I'm like, I don't want to stoop to anyone's level. Like that was my one thing. I don't do that in well, thankfully, actually, I've grown very much as I've gotten older. To be to the point where like I'm not gonna stoop to your level. Like you're not gonna get me out of character. I'm not gonna cuss you out. I'm not gonna do these things. And I'm not gonna gang up and attack someone for no reason.
Yeah, I feel like you said on the show, you said, I truly believe all is fair in love and war. And I feel like that kind of encompasses your approach of like, you are taking a bold approach. Like, there's no question about it. Like, you are making moves that are naturally going to ruffle feathers, not saying that the explosiveness of the situation was justified, but you're going to kind of like peeve people off a little bit, but you do seem to be accepting of whatever consequences, whatever valid consequences come with that. And you're like, hey, this is the game I'm playing. Like, you can play it too. We all have the freedom to move in whatever way we feel works best for our relationship with Grant.
Exactly. And as I said, it's all fair in love and war. And then if we had all talked about this, like, hey, tonight we're all going to talk to him one time and we agree to that, and then I go steal him 5 times, then I'm doing something wrong. But if we've not said that, like we didn't say don't take him during the date, like it is all fair. Like, and I'm also not going to operate in a way that's not authentic to me. Like I do bold things throughout my life. Like that is who I am. It's who I'm always going to be. It's not bold because I need attention, and it's not bold because I'm insecure. It's just bold because I like to do things a little bit different that like, that's just the way I work. And you're allowed to do whatever you want to do, but we'll see. Like,
yeah.
Let's pivot to like the positives of you stealing him, and take us to that conversation on the rooftop of how that went and if it went well.
Yeah, we don't see much of what you guys actually talk about.
Yeah,
what was the interaction like? How do you feel like your gesture was received by Grant?
Yeah, and Grant really liked it. Like he was appreciative. He's like, I see you. Like I see you trying to step out. And the other reason I really did it too was because I'm a really shy person naturally, and it's something that I've worked over time. And I feel like in this environment and in these last few seasons where we have seen people there very, very clearly not for the lead, like I wanted it to be known to him that I'm trying to get to know you. I don't want to just show up and like go episode like week to week, like make it through. Like I genuinely want to see if we have a connection, because I don't want to be taking up any extra time if I'm not supposed to be here. And so that conversation was important to me, as I said, because I only had like 2 minutes with him on night one to see like what is our actual vibe. And we actually had a like cute little conversation about just like general things like food and travel and like what our type is normally and like what we're looking for on the rooftop. Like he had asked me about my previous relationships, and I got to tell him like, my last partner was like very much gaslit and like narcissistic and like made me feel really insecure, and I'm not looking for that again. And it was like a cute little moment. And so I was grateful that I got to do it, because my time's valuable, his time's valuable. And yeah, it was meant to be that. It wasn't meant to do anything else.
When we go to the night portion and then we see you and Allie Joe kind of go back and forth when you both were taking your time with Grant, that usually is always a rough situation to be in, because it usually never works out for either party. How was Grant taking it?
I think Grant was a nice man. I don't think he minded as much as like he could have like been like, why is this already happening on night one? I think he was very much just like understood that it was a very aggressive day of basketball that was competitive to, now the night portion. And like, there was so many women all competing for the time during the cocktail party. Like, it's how rare is it that 10 women are all at one cocktail party? And we don't know how much time any of us have with him. And so I think that was really nerve-wracking for all of us. And I think he was just very like understanding of it. I know he saw like her storm out, which is the only reason I said anything, because it's not like I'm like was like just trying to bring anything up to him to bring stuff up to him. Like we were in the same room and she like said something nasty and then like stormed off in front of him and like he saw that. Like
What did she say?
At this point I forgot. But that's when I was like, oh no, like I'm about to walk into the lion's den. But the thing was, and again, I had the opportunity to steal him from her quicker. And I literally like looked at a watch and was like, no, like 5 more minutes. I'll give her 5 more minutes. Like I just wanted to end the night with him on a good note because I knew there were so many targets on my back. And like, again, I don't know how I'm being perceived by him as being too aggressive or too dramatic or problematic. And I just really wanted to end on like a high note. And that was it. I just wanted to say goodnight and like, see you hopefully next week.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just turned into this whole thing. And then I think he walked into us screaming and crying at each other to hand out the group date rose. So he was probably like, what did I get myself into?
Well, you know, it's week 2. He's got a lot of time to keep feeling like that. He's the Bachelor. He got himself into a lot.
Exactly.
So you end up getting a rose.
Yes.
What's your headspace after you receive the rose? Now it seems like you have a lot of enemies in the house, but Grant is clearly giving you validation. You got a rose and he seems to be into you. So yeah, like looking forward, what's going on?
Yeah, I think at that point, because there was like, it's so much on you at one time when like you do get involved in any drama because as I said, like you're not like me personally, and I'm sure like some people, they love drama, they want to like be in these fights. I'm like, I don't want that. Like I'm here for love, I'm here for a husband. I want Grant to know me and I want to know him, but I'm also not here to apologize and to not be myself. And so I was just very much like, I just hope that this drama is over. Like I didn't understand why the girls were holding a grudge. They were still saying little comments during the rose ceremony to me, about me. Like it was just so like strange. I was like, are we really like doing this right now? Like, we're moving on. We're past this week. Like, you know, some people didn't make it. And yeah, so I was like, I really just wanted to stay out of the drama coming up. I wanted to see if Grant and I actually had a connection. You know, I was really hopeful that he saw that I was trying so hard and that hopefully next week I get a one-on-one. Like those were like all the things that I was hoping for too. Since it was such a tough time, I was hoping that like I'll have time to like for him to see me and not me trying to compete with many women. But yeah, I just
moving into week excited, yeah. But probably a little bit
like
nervous.
It was yeah, just all of it. And like as I said, I hadn't been in an environment like that since I lived with my like parents when like years ago. So it was like a very strange situation to kind of feel like you were back in that environment as a grown adult. That was just really triggering for me.
Yeah. What were your goals and intentions moving into week 3? Were you feeling like you wanted to continue with the strategy that you had been moving with, or were you like, I think I'm going to pull back? What were your kind of goals moving forward with how you wanted to navigate everything?
Yeah, I think my approach was like, at that point I had made my mark. Like that's all I wanted. I was like, I just want him to see me, to hear me, to like hopefully get some sort of connection going. And I think we did. And like, that was it. Like, I don't need a bunch of time. I'm not trying to like constantly step on toes. Like, and so for week 3, I'm like, whatever, like comes my way, if it makes sense to steal him, if I get the one-on-one, like hopefully like I can utilize that and like tell him more about myself and like get to know him more. But by that point, I was just so emotionally drained, even though it was like the second week, that I was just like, I don't want to do anything that is going to put any more targets on my back because like I genuinely don't want that and I can't really handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
100%.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to play a game with you so people get to know you a little better. Before we do, if you were to tease next week with one word without spoiling it, what would it be?
Oh, Shark Pink.
Oh.
Nice.
Okay, that's a first. Usually it's like surprising. I like it. I like it.
Okay, we're gonna do rapid fire. Get to know Zoe. It's just rapid fire. First thing that comes to your mind. We're gonna ask you some very very easy questions. Okay, what is your love language when it comes to receiving love?
Ooh, quality time.
What is your go-to drink at a bar?
A martini or Negroni.
Who is someone that inspires you?
Ooh, okay. I know this is controversial, but Kim Kardashian.
If,
like it.
If you were on a deserted island and could only bring 2 girls from your season,
Ooh.
who would you bring?
Okay, I would have to bring Bailey because she is like the funniest person I've ever met, and she can recite every single show that you can think of. And Dina. I love Dina.
Favorite thing to cook?
Ooh. I do a good surf and turf. It's a good date night dish too.
Fancy.
Gold or silver jewelry?
Ooh. Gold.
Heels or comfy shoes for a night out?
Heels.
Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Night owl.
What is your favorite thing about Grant?
Ooh. Good question. Well, I think he was like had a protective energy. Like whenever we were together, I just kind of felt very protective. So I like that.
And last but not least, if you could describe Grant's season in one word, what would it be?
Unpredictable.
Okay.
I like it. I feel like the promos are teasing a lot to come. So we're excited to see how your journey with Grant unfolds. Thank you so much for coming on, Zoe.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
And thank you to all our listeners. And make sure you stay tuned to Bachelor Happy Hour because we will be having exclusive interviews with castmates all season long.
And more recaps to come. Don't forget to tune in to episode 3 of Grant's season of The Bachelor next week. And be sure to subscribe to Bachelor Happy Hour. Thanks for listening. Bye.